people don't know that a number of people lost jobs. People don't know that I was pushed out of New York City because of my politics and because of how I couldn't get a teaching job. Now, that's how I made my living. And but what was interesting, Amherst College offered me a job. Michigan offered me a job. Someplace in Iowa offered me a job. And those are so cold places, you know. And I figured, well, Amherst would be closer
to New York.
To New York,
yes.
You know. So I chose Amherst to go up there. But what I found out, what this was merely all about, is because if you challenge and push at that time these universities to do what they must do, to teach what they must do, to make these African American studies programs be what they must be, we challenged them on many levels. That we did it on the economic level. Some of the black students were asking to go to Africa. Well, the schools sent everybody else to every place else.
Europe,
you know,
yes.
All over.
Yes.
But they wouldn't do that. So I said, I was talking to the sister who was the head of the Black Students organization there. It was called Third World Organization there. And I was their advisor. She said, how can we do this? And I stopped and I thought. I said, let me think about it. So I called a couple of people. I said, is it legal that, I said, for them to send, I called Professor John Bracey. I called a bunch of people. I knew Dr. Clark. And
John Henry?
John Henry.
Yes.
I said, is it legal? They said, we don't know. I asked, is it legal for them to use the money of all these black students and Puerto Rican students, right, these Latino students here, to send everybody else to Europe and then they can't? They said, we don't know. I said, let's test it. I believe we don't know, let's test it. The brother who's a lawyer, he's dead now, political lawyer, he did his biography. I'll pull his name. I'll tell my brain up here, my computer to pull it up again. I said, we went downstairs, we want the money that these students pay in to the student fees. We were told we could get it. We took it, put it in a separate bank.
All right.
I kid you not.
Yes.
That's why. And I tell you, that alone was one of the reasons why the man who was president of the college said once, you know, out loud, if I could get rid of the student who was the president, it was community college there that I'm talking about, Manhattan Community College.
Yes.
And he got us, though. And let me tell you how he got us and how I was put out of New York for a while. The students decided to sit in the president's office because I forgot now what had happened. And I was in class and I didn't know it, and they hadn't asked about it. It was one of those impromptu things, you know, whatever, spontaneous things. And someone came to my class and said, I said, okay, I'll be finished. So I came over there, but the president had called the police. So I went over with my briefcase and my purse, and as I got in there, the police came in ready to really crack down. And I said, stop. I said, it's so dumb, but I said, I'm an adult. You know, these people were adults too. These young students were adults too. I said, I'll go with them as an adult, you know, so you don't have to sling. We'll go quietly, and I'm going to turn and tell them that, you know, being in the movement, I know that, you know, you're not going to do anything wrong. You're not going to do, you know, whatever. We're going quietly and whatever. And they said, okay, Professor Sanchez. So we got arrested, and we went to jail. Conrad Lynn. Remember Conrad
Yes.
Lynn, the lawyer? Conrad Lynn had been, I was wise enough to know that anytime you do anything political, you call. I called Conrad, and Conrad said, yeah, make sure you have a check for me, Sonia. Conrad was political, but he
Yes.
always said, have a check. So I gave my wallet, my purse to one of the students, and I put a check in my bra, and we left. We got in there. We were able to make a call. I called Conrad. He came. And I wrote the check out for him and gave it to him. And he got the students, and they put us in, as women, in with the prostitutes.
Oh.
It was very interesting. Mm-hmm. So the prostitutes said, what are you all doing? So we said, and I let them speak. I just sat back, you know, watching. They said, we were doing that. And they said, why are you doing all that black stuff? And the students, you know, always teaching, whatever, et cetera. And said, who are you? You know. And one of them said, ain't I seen you on television? So I said, probably. you're in television and in jail too. I said, isn't that something? I said, well, we went to jail a lot. Some of us, many people I know went to jail a lot for a lot of things like this. And they said, so we started talking and we started singing. The students started singing some of the, we should not, whatever. And they was away from us for a minute, then they kind of joined in. It was an amazing moment, people. I always say people are inherently good.
Yes.
And inherently political and inherently wanting to do right at some particular point. So Conrad came and got them out. He said, they won't release you, Sonia. They said that you have been arrested before, and so therefore they're checking on you at San Francisco State with that big strike at San Francisco State, right? I said, okay. Well, they didn't let me out until morning. And we went before the judge. The students wouldn't leave. They waited. We went before the judge, and they said, if you don't do anything in 6 months, you know what that's about.
Yes.
It's all. So I went back to my class, and taught. But then the president decided to bring them up on all kinds of charges. And then he got this panel.
The president of the Manhattan Community College.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
Draper.
Yes.
And there they were. And I went in and I said, I knew some of the professors. They weren't in African American studies, right? Black studies. And I said, what is this about? Why are you sitting in here like this? I said, the students have already been told that if they don't get into any trouble, they're graduating. They were going to be graduating. So what he was going to make sure they would not graduate, be thrown out of school. So they said, well, we can't talk about this, Sonia. Some of them said, we can't talk about this, Sonia, whatever. So I said, Conrad, what is this? He said, Sonia, they're after the students. He said, this is the top lawyer for the board. They sent the top lawyer for the board, right? So I said, let me see what I can do. So I went out, and I've told this before, and I'm writing about this. I went in, and I said to the secretary of the president, she says, yes. And I said, thank you. And I went in, and she says, you can't go in. I said, mm-hmm. I went, I said, what do you want? You know what he said? I want you out of here. I said, if I promise, so I was cocky about this, you see, because at that time, nobody was teaching Black Lit. In New York, it's, a couple of people, so I figured, I got it made, I can get a job, right? So I said, okay, if good faith, I said, if you give me good faith, if I go back in and you show signs of good faith that those students are not going to be prosecuted and kicked out of school and whatever, I'll come and resign. I went back the next day. Conrad was there. Conrad was laughing. He said, they sent some dummy here, whatever. And I told him what I'd done. He said, Sonia, you shouldn't have done that. I said, well, because they're going. They were going to go. These students were going. I mean, I knew they were going, whatever. Sylvia was her name, the president. And I told her, Sylvia, it'll be all right now. I went back into his office. I asked him for a piece of paper. I wrote down the date. Dear President Draper, I resign from Manhattan Community College as of, I signed it and left. But I started calling around to people I knew in New York City, right? And I said, well, looks like, I'm laughing at first, looks like when I need a job, I need a job, in September. September rolls around, and they said, we'll get back to you. I went from there to China in 73. I was asked, John Killens, Alice Childress, and there was a Black woman actor who never made it big, who was a friend of the sister who, Candace Bergen, who was on the television program about being the reporter.
Yes.
She was a friend of Candace. And then the guy who was her partner at that time, the San Francisco Mime Troupe, Earl O'Farry, we all went. We went after Nixon had gone. We were called cultural workers by people in China. Then I came back from that trip. John got ill, so he couldn't go on that trip. And I started waiting for the calls that were supposed to come in. Not one call. People were out of their office. They weren't in the office. Then I said, I'm not getting a job.
You were whitelisted.
I was. You know who told me? I called down. There was a sister, a white woman, who was political in the English department. She said, they picked up your record and they sent it downtown. That's what's wrong.
That's right.
That's what
but they did allow the students to graduate?
Oh, they
Yes.
They
Yeah,
graduated.
they honored
Oh, they
that.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, it said it, because they hadn't, I would have gone
Yes.
crazy in there, but they did. But I tell you, what they did is that it was like I went to listen to the hearing. It was like a, fiasco, Everybody was laughing, and their thing was that it's okay. They're not going to prosecute them at all, whatever. They're okay. But Sylvia said something. She's a really very brilliant student. She said, there's a reason he did that, Sonia, and presented that to you. She said, and we're going to find that out. And then later on, in midsummer, I said, you're right. There was a reason. That was how they got me out.
That's
they
right.
Couldn't have gotten me out any other way. She said maybe we should have gone through that. And I don't know. I just felt as their mother, their professor, their sister, their aunt, that I couldn't take that chance.
Oh.